like this. All right, man. And make sure y'all double tap the screen and like the video. And make sure to support the stream, man. Send in any questions, comments, jokes, or disagreement. $2 and up. I'll be happy to engage you with it and read it out loud. All right, guys. Let's get going.
$1 trillion a year. China steals somewhere in the neighborhood of $500 billion a year. We ignored Osama bin Laden. And then we said, how did that happen? Well, we can't afford to do that with China because China is so much more powerful than Al-Qaeda ever was.
We don't need this weirdo militaristic talk about China. And I don't want to get into a war with China. That's mental.
Cheng, just because we're not shooting guns and dropping bombs doesn't mean we're not at war with China, bro. Trust me, they're poisoning the minds of the kids with that freaking TikTok crap. They send fentanyl through our freaking border. How much more signs do you need to say that they are the enemy?
Is there anybody else that has a walk-in?
I mean, people are waking up, Piers. I don't think they're necessarily bending the knee. It's like America is just fed up and they're just tired of the nonsense. Good for Bill Maher.
People are being rounded up for their ideas, and that's new, and that's chilling.
No, this is all a protection of Israel. And once you take away his rights, you're taking away our rights. And that's it. Round them up.
There are no half measures in today's febrile public square. President Trump's 90-day pause on most new tariffs was either a masterclass in the art of the deal or a panic-stricken climb down. It depends on who you follow online and what you watch. And the same camps are divided over Bill Maher, who has variously been described this weekend as a rabid MAGA convert and a sellout dupe for reporting on his dinner with the president like this.
He's much more self-aware than he lets on in public. I'm just taking it as a positive that this person exists because everything I've ever not liked about him was, I swear to God, absent. I never felt I had to walk on eggshells around him. And honestly, I voted for Clinton and Obama, but I would never feel comfortable talking to them the way I was able to talk with Donald Trump. That's just how it went down. Make of it what you will.
Well, the truth is exactly where he is, somewhere in the middle. If the 2028 election is somehow Obama versus Trump, as Steve Bannon suggested in the same show, you can safely bet that Bill Maher will not be backing the president. But he's also figured out that defending Democrats to the hilt over every cultural excess and constantly smearing Trump as a dangerous demagogue who can do no right isn't working out very well either. As for the tariffs, there's no doubt that they have caused chaos in the markets. But there's also no doubt that many countries are now hurriedly negotiating new trade terms that will benefit the US. And if MAGA is as divided and furious about the trade war as we've been led to believe, well, nobody told the crowd at UFC in Florida this weekend.
And making the entrance right now.
That's what I'm saying. And that's just liberal propaganda. It's like, bro, you will be hard pressed to find any MAGA supporter pretty much going against Trump in these tariffs. It's like, one, because, well, most of them has been listening to this man all the way through the election. When you've been listening to him through his rallies and interviews and all that good stuff, just like what I did with both sides, Kamala Harris and Trump, you kind of know what the message are. And I knew what both sides' message was, and everybody kind of knew about the tariffs. We all knew about the plot to bring everything back to America. We knew about this. It's just the problem is the Dems or the libs weren't paying attention. Since y'all wasn't paying attention, y'all sitting there in shock. It's like I said, like a student who honestly ain't pay attention in class, then you get a pop quiz, you look, and now you got the sinking feeling in your heart, like, what the hell is this?
Standing ovation, the 47th president of the United States of America, flanked by UFC CEO Dana White and others, Donald J. Trump. Is there anybody else that has a walk-in other than a fighter?
So nothing is black and white. Well, almost nothing. There are still things like Taylor Lorenz's fangirling over Luigi Mangione.
You're going to see women especially that feel like, oh my God, right? Like, here's this man who's revolutionary, who's famous, who's handsome, who's young, who's smart. He's a person that seems this morally good man, which is hard to find.
What in the hell?
Sorry, what? Surely everyone with a brain or a heart.
Fangirling? So we're fangirling over assassins who shoot people in the back. We're calling that manly? Really, would have been manly if he'd have walked up in his face and then shot him. That would have been cold. But what he did was bitch ass behavior. I'm gonna be honest with you.
Or a modicum of compassion can agree that someone who executes a father of two as he walks down the street is not a morally good man. Well, let's find out. To debate all this and more, I'm joined by Cenk Uygur, the founder and CEO of the Young Turks, by Josh Rogan, analyst for the Washington Post Intelligence, Vinny Ashana, PBD's podcast Angry Patriot, and Gordon Chang, the author of Plan Red, China's project to destroy America. Well, welcome to all of you. Let me start with you, Cenk. Where are we with tariff gate? Because it seems to me the biggest problem right now for the administration is not the principle of leveling tariffs, which can be debated, or the overarching philosophy behind it, which is that America should be doing more manufacturing. I think most people agree with that. The real problem is the constant mixed messaging from the top people at the White House is causing, I think, real uncertainty and real damage, not least to Donald Trump's approval ratings on the economy.
Yeah, 100%. There's really no argument about it. I mean, the folks that are saying art of the deal are hilarious. So, and it can be proven very simply. So, first, he does these global, massive nuclear tariffs. So, as you know, appears on this show, I said they'll never last. They're maniacal. And I also said, as you're pointing out, that tariffs can be done right. They could be targeted and strategic based on industries or countries in specific. So then Donald Trump backpedals, and you can tell it's a backpedal and not some sort of art of the deal because he got absolutely nothing in return.
He got these guys to come to the table. Are you serious? That's what I'm saying. It's like when you listen to the libs, it's like, oh, he caved. But then when you honestly listen to what's been going on in actuality, listen or look at reality of the situation, yeah, he got countries who are lining up to make this deal because they want to lower the tariff. So we didn't lower the tariffs because we caved to these countries. I mean, what are we caving on? Why would we cave? Like I said, if we're not caving on China, think about it like this. If we haven't caved on China, why would we cave to these smaller countries? Really think about that logic.
So the 90-day pause was based on zero give back from any other country. It's because he had miraculously crashed the stock market and the bond market at the same time, which was previously held unimaginable because one is supposed to go up while the other one goes down, but he managed to do both. And now China tariffs is super strong. Okay, just exemptions for iPhones and electronics. Why? Because he hadn't thought it through. He hasn't thought through any of this. He's always doing this in a way that makes no sense at all. And by the way, if you like tariffs and you like the
actually, no, he did. He'd been told us that he was going to have relief for certain corporations to give them time to move their production over here. So this has been talked about in the plan. And like I said, we're talking about people like liberals who don't listen to a Trump rally, listen to a Trump interview, barely listens to the man. The only time they do is when they clip him up on mainstream media, and that's it. So we're expecting guys like this to talk about Trump's plan as if they know anything. And that's the funny thing. They're trying, y'all trying to tell us we don't know the plan. I'm like, yeah, we do. We've been talking about it. Like, if you want to go back to all his rallies and a couple interviews, yeah, he kind of laid out his plan right there and then.
Idea of rebuilding manufacturing in this country. Donald Trump just did massive damage to it. Because after this, who's going to want to do tariffs again? So there's absolutely no planning here. And then let's see how he negotiates, if he can negotiate with China at all. But it's done nothing but damage and gotten us no good return so far.
Okay, Gordon Chang, your response to that?
Well, yes, so far, but we're very early into this process. And yes, I don't like a lot of the turbulence and a lot of the backtracking, but we got to see how this turns out. Remember, with this 90-day pause, President Trump is going to be negotiating with a lot of countries. We're going to end up stitching trade deals with them, and we're going to leave China out in the cold. And China's never been there, or at least hasn't been there for decades. So I think this is a fascinating process. It has actually a possibility of working, and it's absolutely got to work. President Trump knows what he needs to do. Now, he may not do it in the way we like, but I think he's going to eventually get it done. So let's wait until the end of the process before making judgments about whether this works or not.
Yeah.
Right.
But it has been a disaster so far.
There are 90 days.
I mean, man, within the first couple of weeks, like I'm saying, it's like, bro, trust the process. The only people who can't understand the term of trust the process, the people who never took no risk in their life, who never worked out for real, you know, those type of people who don't understand that, yeah, to have a change, to have good change, you got to go through a process. And, well, according to how Chink looks, and, well, I'm just be real with you, Chink's kind of a fat ass. Yeah, I can tell he don't know nothing about trusting the process. But he should, though. But he should, because he built like a pretty big channel. He should, though.
Yeah, I mean, Josh, there are 90 days to negotiate with countries. According to people at the White House, they've already had a lot of countries get in touch to try and do new deals. Is it right to judge this now, or should we be a little bit more patient, notwithstanding the fairly reckless way that this has so far been rolled out?
Well, to be sure, Piers, there is a lot of truth to the fact that all of these countries are coming to make deals with the Trump administration. They were doing it before. They'll continue to do it. And I'm rooting for the United States, and I think most Americans are rooting for the Trump administration to succeed. But it's impossible to ignore the fact that trade deals take months, if not years, to negotiate, and negotiating 90 of them in 90 days is not only unprecedented, it's basically fantastical. And, you know, will they get 10? Will they get 20? Will they get 30? I hope they get as many as they can. But what is
to be honest, it's actually, we've done this before. That's the wild part that nobody likes to admit, is that, yeah, we've done this before. And I'm about to show y'all proof that there's been times that, yeah, we've made deals with a massive amount of countries all at once. So it's not like he's not talking about something really that we have not achieved before in American history.
The cost of that turbulence? What is the benefit versus the price that we pay while we're subjecting our economy and all these other economies, by the way, all these economies around the world that are so dependent on us, to all of this suffering and pain while we, you know, change our policy this way and that way. It just has to be weighed against the perceived benefits. So it's complex. And, you know, I'm not saying that they won't succeed to some degree, but it's impossible to ignore the fact that the way that they're doing it is causing massive, massive damage, not just to our economy. And I agree with Gordon that, you know, it's time to confront Chinese predatory and unfair trade practices across the board. But we get one shot at this. And I think isolating China is going to be really difficult, especially when China is increasing its relationship with all the countries around the world that we're also alienating at the same time. So, yeah, it's not impossible that he could succeed, but it doesn't look good. It doesn't look good because of the way it's gone so far. We have to be honest about that.
Nope. Chinese propaganda that's been proven false. All the countries are kind of like staying clear of China because it's like, one, what are you going to do? What they're gonna export their products into that country and send it here? We'll just tariff the hell out of that country. One, and we already have countries lining up for negotiations. So I don't think China's really gonna want to work with anybody who's already working with us. And if they do, we're gonna look at them kind of side eye, like, yeah, bro, you know what this means, right? If you countries want to go ahead and do this business with China, you will be highly tariffed. And the countries that don't play that game could dominate in the industry that they're playing around it. So it's really like a lose-lose if you try to go against America. I mean, like I said, it's either somebody else can take advantage of our market or you can crumble because you're not in our market. It's a lose-lose situation, okay? And y'all got to get over that.
With him at the weekend at the
hey, America, baby, America.
UFC, and we'll come to that in Florida, where he got a roaring ovation. There's no doubt the country, as always with Trump, is split, where a lot of liberals are in complete, raging fury about him. And at the same time, in places like Florida, he can do no wrong. But I saw a poll on CNN this morning, which has actually been, the polling they've been doing on him has been quite positive until now. But the polling on, do Americans trust Trump on the economy, and do they blame him or Biden for the state of the economy right now? They've never been worse for Trump. So now the American people have moved from blaming Biden to now blaming Trump. and his own approval rating on the economy is plummeting pretty rapidly. Now, I know Trump well, as you do, and he won't like that. He won't like the fact that his economic polling is plummeting. So this has to work quite quickly, doesn't it?
Yeah, Piers, I think, well, first of all, the just him walking into the UFC, like you said, we're going to get into, I've never seen anything like that. I mean, I saw Michael Jackson when I was a kid, and it was at that.
Actually, no. When you say in the 1920s, that is the most uneducated way to look at the Great Depression. I'm going to tell you why. Because you can look up anywhere before tariffs, before this hysteria about tariffs, everybody's saying the main problem with the Depression was it was money tight. Actually, if you still look it up, they'll say the main problem with the Depression, we were money tight, and the Fed refused to print out money. So this is one of the reasons why we have a distrust of the Feds. Now, did tariffs play a part into it? Yeah, but the main problem, if you are being, well, historically factual about this, is it was a money tight situation that the Feds refused to fix. That's it. I mean, to sit there and blame it on tariffs alone is extremely inaccurate.
That level, but we'll get into that. But Piers, here's my thing. Obviously, all we're going to hear is the fear mongering from the other side. Everything from the past 8 years when he first came in, it was, we're going to go to war with Korea. He was a Russian asset. We're going to go to war. Everything is fear mongering. Piers, the guy hasn't been in for 3 months. Everybody needs to just relax. Just like Gordon said, let it take time. And I have an analogy, Piers. Our country, like, you know what, a heroin addict, when they finally stop doing the heroin and they put them in a room, they're detoxing, they're shaking, they're sweating, they're going through a bunch of, the bodies are convulsing. That's what America's going through, Piers. We've been hooked on this freaking government, everybody walking all over us, every country taking advantage of us. It's going to hurt for a little while, Piers. But guess what? The tariffs are going to work. Stock market jumped 400 points today. Everybody needs to chill. And then, Piers, by the way, how many factories are reopening? Steel jobs are coming back to America. Japan pledged $1 trillion to come here. The UAE committed $1.4 trillion in 10 years. Saudi Arabia just lined up $600 billion, possibly hitting $1 trillion. It's not small talk. It's respect. And Cheng said it's not the art of the deal. This is exactly what it is. He knows how to play this freaking game. Now he doesn't have all the Russia and all the crazy shit happening around him. Just give him some time. Let him cook. Everything's going to be okay. You'll see. Trust me.
All right, Cenk, trust Vinny.
Cheers. Yeah, no, I definitely don't. No offense, Vinny. So listen, what would have garnered trust is if he had done this in a rational way and said, here's the industries I'm protecting. Here's the countries I'm targeting. And I'm going reciprocal. If China's got 20%, we're going to put...
I mean, bro, all of our industries need protecting because most of our industries are kind of being sold out to other countries. I mean, bro, pick an industry. Agricultural, bro, there was a huge import bans like across the board. Hell of import bans on our agriculture. I mean, UK got their whole, we don't want no bleach washed chicken. And I'm like, all right, but that's not all of us, though. And okay, then if that's the case, then show us, prove it. Bro, go ahead, please. Prove us wrong. Please. Prove to us that every one of our chicken manufacturer, every one of our chicken producers is putting these chemicals in there. Go ahead. Come on, pick one. Pick up. Please. So it's not just like steel. It's not just about technology, but it also is about agriculture as well. So I'm really trying to wonder, like, all right, well, you want to talk about industry specific, dog, what industry isn't suffering? Like, bro, clothing, most of our clothing manufacturers that people buy from is overseas. So pick an industry, and I'll tell you, it's suffered through this process that we've been going through of sending our jobs overseas and buying overseas. We're not going to sit here and pretend like this doesn't stretch across the entire economy, across all sectors.
Put 20% on them and it's non-negotiable, right? Or we're going to negotiate it down to 0 so that we're got it fair for both sides. But to do 145%, I mean, you might as well do 1,000,000%. It doesn't make any sense. At that price, you can't sell any goods.
Okay.
So he's not thinking this through. He's doing this in a crazy way. And you guys are saying, hey, let's...
Okay, hold on. I'll give you that. Lib actually made a good point. Like, the arms industry has done fantastic, but of course it has. We've been sending tax money and laundering it through Ukraine. Of course it has. I mean, but that cannot be the only industry that does well. How many industries is there in America? How many do we operate in? For us to sit there and depend on the weapons industry? How How many of us work for a weapons corporation? Not that much.
See how it plays out. It's only 3 months in. I get it, and that's fair. And there's a long way to go with 4 years. But what you can't say at the same time is that it's worked so far. It hasn't. It did crash the stock market. It did crash the bond market. And Donald Trump retracted those because he had crashed the markets. That's not part of any plan. That's just a giant screw up, and he got nothing in return. So you can say, hey, maybe he'll get better later. And that's always true, of course, right? But to say that he's cooking now, no, he's cooked, not cooking. And so far, he's done nothing but absolutely bungle it and got nothing in return.
But Cheng, you expect what?
Come on now, Cheng. You know what Trump's doing.
I can see what they're doing, what he's doing. I can see it. I feel it. He's cooking. I can see.
Is cooking.
What do you expect in 3 months, brother? It's gonna take time, and it's gonna be ugly. China has owned our asses.
And he just started this maybe like a week ago, like at the beginning of the month. Like, dog, we're not even into the first month of these tariffs, and you guys are crying. Like, chill out.
Cheng, for how long? And the only thing I fear, Piers, the last time, because listen, at the end of the day, all these other countries they're gonna bend the knee. China is our actual threat. When people say they're our adversary, no, that's our enemy, okay, Piers? It's freaking China. And the last time Trump tried to hold them accountable and we had a trade war with China, a virus mysteriously leaked out of a lab that we not only opened, we funded, and the main guy behind the helm that this virus leaked from got a preemptive pardon and his hands were washed and he has no accountability. That's the only actual fear. Trump is the only one that is holding their freaking foot to the fire. And I'm sorry, Pierre. And Josh, you said at the beginning that I disagree when you said that people are hoping for the success. The majority of the people that I know on the left, Josh, hell no. They're like, no, they want it to fail. They want it to burn just so they could say it was Trump. It was Trump. We told you. That's not America, brother. We have the freaking president of the United States. He's the leader of the freaking free world. We have to back the guy. I'm not saying blindly back whatever the hell that he's doing. Check, I have some stuff that me and you agree on that he's doing that I don't agree with. But when it comes to this, bro, when it comes to China, that is the actual threat. They freaking, mind you, the past 4 years, they got away with everything. They were flying spy balloons, Piers. Nobody said shit, all right? They buy land at all of our military bases, nuclear missile bases in Mount Montana. Nobody says anything. They do whatever they want. And then when she comes to San Francisco.
I mean, they cause 90% of the pollution in the world, and nobody says a damn thing. But we all got to watch our carbon footprint, though. Nobody want to pull on China's coattail about their carbon footprint. That's probably the biggest in the world. Well, actually, no, it is the biggest in the world. But nobody tells China nothing.
Newsom cleans the street, kisses his ass. It looked like freaking Beijing. All right, we finally got a guy that's holding their foot to the fire. Like I said, it's going to hurt. It's going to be a little turbulent. But, bro, the guy knows what he's doing. He's a freaking boss, and he's a businessman. He's going to be fine.
All right,
Yes, he will,
see,
Chang.
Josh,
Yes, he
the
will.
interesting
Don't worry,
thing
bro.
about this, hang on, the interesting thing, Josh, it seems to me about this particular crisis is it's entirely self-inflicted, quite deliberately, by the President of the United States. This is not some existential disaster that's happened or a pandemic or whatever it may be, or a terror attack or a war. This is entirely orchestrated by Donald Trump and his team quite deliberately. And I've got to say, you know, we were both on the Bill Maher show, and we'll come to that a little later on Friday. But, you know, every time I've ever interviewed Trump, 40, 50 times, however many it is now, he's always gone on about China. And I don't think he's wrong. So it's an interesting crisis where it's entirely driven by Donald Trump. He's done this quite deliberately. Most people...
Bro, Trump been dunking on China since the 80s. If you also been listening to Trump since the 80s, you kind of knew the plan. As soon as he became president, y'all should have thought, yeah, this man about to put up some tariffs. As soon as he became president.
I think agree with the overarching principle that America has been ripped off, certainly by China, for too long, and that manufacturing has been allowed to migrate out of America for way too long and way too aggressively. So everyone kind of agrees with why Trump is doing something dramatic. What the point of argument is the implementation of a policy to try and reverse this trend. And that's why it's interesting to me. You know, when Trump talks about we've got to take the hard medicine, what Vinny just said, you know, it's very early to assess whether this will work or not. It could be that in
Oh, guys, let's make sure to like the video. So please double tap that screen, like the video. Let's get more people on the conversation. The 3 dots up there in the corner to like the video and subscribe to the channel. Appreciate the support, guys. Let's keep it going.
20 days' time, the Trump team have negotiated a series of new, more advantageous trade deals with many countries. I'm sure that's likely to happen anyway. And it may be, we don't know, but it may be that China blinks, that actually China realizes it needs America more than America needs China.
Yeah, I think there's a lot right in what you said. I've interviewed Trump for an hour on China alone, okay? And I wrote about this in my book. And here's what people really don't understand about President Trump and China is that President Trump's goal is not to decouple from China. President Trump's goal is to make a deal with China, okay? And that's not necessarily what everybody in his administration thinks. But if you ask him, if you listen to him closely, that's what he wants. And for him, all of these things are tactics to get to the negotiating table and make a deal with Xi Jinping, not to separate the United States from China, but to solve the unfair trade practices and keep going the engagement. That's what President Trump believes in his heart of hearts. I'm 100% sure of it, and the people who are close to him know that. So what does that mean? That means that these are all tactics meant to bring Xi Jinping to the table. And I'm sure that eventually, when we get to that point, the Chinese will negotiate. And that will be a very painstaking process. That's exactly what happened in the first term before the pandemic. By the way, Vinny, I agree with you that the virus likely leaked from a lab based on a preponderance of the evidence, but I don't think it was intentional, okay? I think it was an accident, but that's neither here nor there. To address what you're saying, Piers, you know, we have to understand that this is all about deal making for President Trump. And yet, when I say I'm rooting for those deals to succeed, I'm not representing liberals. I'm just a person. I'm independent. I'm not a liberal. I'm just me. And what I'm saying is that when you look at what happened this weekend, even since we were on that show, Piers, we had exemptions for some of the things. Then there were no exemptions. Then the exemptions were temporary. Then this Commerce Secretary said one thing and the trade representative said another thing. Then the president tweeted a third thing. That's no way to run a railroad, okay? We can't do that. This is going to be a very, very difficult thing to pull off if we're doing it competently. And when you have the 3 top officials in the United States saying 3 different things on the same day, even yesterday, or that's just a recipe for undermining his own goal.
Now, I may be about to shock you with this, but tallow is an exceptional moisturizer. The oil in our skin shares many of the same fatty acids of tallow, making it nearly impossible to beat. You can have silky, soft skin, like me.
And hey man, you can cook it, you can cook with it and put it on your skin, man. Shout out tallow.
And man.shop/discount/ no doubt the mixed messaging is a real problem right now. And Donald Trump has to get a grip of that. But you've written a lot and talked a lot extensively about the threat from China. For those who don't fully appreciate why it's such an existential threat potentially to America Incorporated, for want of a better phrase, just explain what China has been doing, particularly in relation to intellectual property rights, and then abusing the legal process in a way that is very advantageous to them.
And I showed this video earlier, right? But I do think it's a good time to bring this video up. All right, because let's get into this. Because Chinese citizens, they're not too happy about this. And trust me, they're not really holding too strong right now. But I mean, hey, live me and learn, right? You live me and learn. Oops, wrong one. Here we go. I mean, shout out to this guy, this Chinese worker. Let's get right to it, guys. I mean, listen, hear him out.
Honestly, these past few days,
It's like Xi Jinping is trying to do the same thing, because even though the Chinese leadership doesn't realize it, Chinese citizens realize that China is overly dependent on US markets, and it's going to be near impossible for Chinese businesses to replace that market overnight. In fact, we have another Chinese citizen here explaining this as simply as one could.
Honestly, these past few days, I just can't stand it anymore. Stop talking about raising tariffs and standing strong. Like it.
Hey, shout out to my man AJ. Appreciate the support, man. And shout out to my man AJ. He comes in with, he's like, what up, S.E.T? Future looks bright. Oh, yes, it does. Yes, it does. I mean, these guys don't know nothing about the process. AJ, they don't understand, man. We got to go through a little bit of growing pains to get to the golden era. But like I said, we're talking to libs here, man. We're talking to guys who don't take no risk. So what do they know? What do they know? But all right, let's get back to my man out here explaining why these countries like China and well, why other countries and even China don't really have too much leverage on us.
Any citizen here explaining this as simply as one could.
Honestly, these past few days, I just can't stand it anymore. Stop talking about raising tariffs and standing strong, like it's some action movie. Trying to act tough is a fast track to self-destruction. Making money, that's the real deal. The US, 350 million people controls a third of the world's consumer market. You know what that means? Out of every $3 spent worldwide, one comes from an American wallet.
Damn.
The EU has 450 million people, but their spending power doesn't even come close to the US.
Which is wild, but this is the situation they put themselves in. I mean, that's what I'm saying. When you guys think that you can replace us, I mean, y'all got, bro, the whole EU has way more people than us. Way more. But you guys don't buy as much as us. So, I mean, honestly, I'd have to ask y'all what y'all got to say about that, because that's kind of funny. I mean, you'd think the whole European Union have so many people, you'd think they have more buying power than us, but they do not. So when you say, oh, they can work with the EU, they can work with each other, no, they can't. No, they can't. They have nowhere near as much buying power as us.
We've got 1.4 billion people working our butts off making stuff, but our buying power is only a fifth of America's. The numbers are right there. Can cursing out the US for being a bully put food on your table? The dollars they're holding, that's the golden ticket in the global business world. Everyone's shouting, we don't need the US market. Wake up. You go sell in Southeast Asia, you're getting paid in Indonesian rupiah.
Boy.
Go to South America, it's pesos. The exchange rates will chop you up before you even get your money. But when you sell to America, you're getting paid in US dollars, spendable anywhere in the world. Look at the Russia-Ukraine war, all hell's broken loose, but the US dollar is still sitting pretty on the world's throne. That's reality. Step outside the dollar system and you don't even have a ticket to the international trade game. And don't give me that, let's shift to Africa, Asia, and Latin America talk either. Our African brothers, a lot of them don't even have reliable electricity. How are they going to buy your fancy appliances? India looks like a big market? Sure, but good luck getting paid. They'll drag it out till your business goes bankrupt. Only America with its 300 plus million.
Yeah, and people be forgetting. I'm like, bro, we're probably one of the best people these countries work with. I mean, you can set up your corporations here. You ain't got to worry about the government seizing your products, or seizing the land that we told you we were going to give to, but we just said F you and just took all your money. I mean, you don't got to do none of that over here in America. And then also, India, one other argument for India, they're kind of the same thing to China, but like a little brother version. And India mainly relies on their domestic industry. They do not like to go out their domestic industry. They put high tariffs up to protect their domestic industry. India produces for itself mainly.
Million middle-class consumers is standing there with open wallets. No scams, no delayed payments. Even with all the sanctions these past couple of years, it's still the cleanest market on earth. Compared to places where you have to deal with bribes and shakedowns, the US is like a business paradise. Here's the thing. Capital is 10,000 times smarter than you or me. Norway's sovereign wealth fund, Middle Eastern oil money, national pension funds from all over the world, they've all poured their cash into the US stock market. Don't you think those countries want to act tough too? But reality is, without the US, the world's biggest consumption engine, your products won't even get the chance to break even, let alone make a profit. Rely on Russia? Iran? Come on. They're barely staying alive by selling off their resources. It's easy to curse American hegemony. It's a lot harder to face reality. At the end of the day, the global supply chain boils down to one simple truth. Whoever holds the purchasing power holds the power, period. The US has 5% of the world's population, but controls a third of its consumption. That's absolute market dominance. You can hate it all you want. But when 70% of your manufacturing depends on exports and 80% of your foreign reserves rely on trade, losing the US market is basically cutting off your own lifeline. For those shouting, we'd rather not make money from America, listen up. Ordinary people need to eat. Companies need to pay salaries. The government needs foreign currency reserves. If you really want to play hardball with the US hurting each other in the process, who ends up losing? It's the workers on the assembly lines. It's the small business owners running factories. It's every regular person trying to make a living through exports. Trying to act tough in the face of overwhelming market power? That's just plain stupidity. If it's time to bow your head and negotiate, then bow your head. If it's time to cut profits, then cut profits. Right now, keeping your job is more important than anything else. I'm just a high school dropout, but even I know, in the business world, pride means nothing. Only supply and demand matter. You have no idea how sweet the American market is until you look at the real numbers. Instead of shouting slogans, better to figure out how to play by their rules and make money. Fill your pockets with US dollars first, then you can talk about upgrading industries or ditching the dollar. Otherwise, it's just nonsense. Bowing your
You gotta have more of our money than we have of our own, and I don't think that's very likely.
head to make money? Nothing shameful about that. But gambling ordinary people's livelihoods just to save face? Now that's real stupidity. In my narrow opinion, if making life better for regular people means we have to crawl to make money, then so be it.
Now, as you guys
Man, I mean, he said it best. He was like, bro, that means we gotta bend the knee, so be it. But like, China does not have that strong foot that y'all think they do. It's like, trust me, they're not standing on 10, they're standing on one leg.
To people like United States of America and abusing the legal process in a way that is very advantageous to them and very unadvantageous to people like United States of America.
China steals somewhere in the neighborhood of $500 billion a year. Give or take a couple $100 billion. That was the assessment from John Ratcliffe when he was Director of National Intelligence in 2020, just before he left office. And, this has been persistent. It's been going on for decades. And the issue really has been no American president has been willing to take the Chinese on this particular topic until Trump in this term. Not even Trump in the 45 years. It's Trump 47 who is really doing this. The context for this is that the Chinese regime believes the United States is an existential threat. It believes that.
Oh, guys, we got 15 super chats until we open up the call-in line. And trust me, guys, we're in for the long runs. We got plenty of time. Let's keep it going.
Not because of anything that we say or do, Piers, but because of who we are. You have an insecure regime in Beijing is worried about the inspirational impact of America's values and form of governance on the Chinese people. So that means we will never have amicable relations with Beijing as long as the Communist Party rules it. That's not a conclusion that most people want to hear. It's not a conclusion that President Trump wants to hear. But when he tried a trade deal with China in January 2020, just before the pandemic, the Phase 1 trade pact, it failed almost immediately because the Chinese violated it. And they'll continue to violate it because
that's the problem. Is like, you guys want to keep saying, oh no, we should play fair with China. China don't play fair. Oh, we should play fair with these countries. Why are we doing this to them? Because they don't play fair with us. I mean, it's not just China that don't play fair when it comes to trade. This is why we're playing hardball with the world, because the world is playing hardball with us. And we was being a little too soft on them, holding all the leverage though. So now we got to show our hand.
They believe that
and put foots on necks and put foots on necks.
They must destroy our country. I don't like that conclusion, but unfortunately, we have got to face what the Chinese regime says and does. We ignored Osama bin Laden. We ignored him until one day when he killed 2,977 Americans. And then we said, how did that happen? Well, we can't afford to do that with China because China is so much more powerful than Al-Qaeda ever was.
Good point.
I mean, Cenk, you're shaking your head, but why?
Yeah, so China has ripped us off. They have a partner here in America that I'll get to in a second. But we don't need this weirdo militaristic talk about China. We could just keep it to economic competition and sometimes, by the way, economic cooperation. And look, guys, we all seem to agree we need to deal with China.
Bro, hold on now. Big dog, you cannot pretend like this is not a national security problem. Like the fact that we don't have our manufacturing of our, like honestly, our medication and our weapons or our battleships here. Like, yeah, bro, it's not just an economic battle we're having. They are a military adversarial. So here's the problem. If they're producing more weapons than we are, or if these guys are, well, producing our weapons, it's not a good look, or it's not a good thing if we ever popped off a war with them or one of their allies. And they decided to take the side of their allies. I'm like, well, we're just gonna stop sending stuff to you guys. What you're gonna do? Build your own? You kind of see where we've kind of left ourselves in a vulnerable position military-wise, but they've left themselves in a vulnerable position economic-wise. I guess if you're a consumer nation, you kind of leave yourself vulnerable to military, and then when you're a producing nation, you leave yourself open through economics.
Over tariffing us and getting an unfair advantage. The right way to do that is to go